I'm Alfonso Mendoza, host of the My Ed Tech Life podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome, folks. This is the High Tech Podcast. This is William Illingworth, one of your hosts, joined by Joshua Schwartz.
Yep, that's me. Today I am Josh.
Today. Maybe not tomorrow.
Maybe not tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm Star-Lord.
I'm in. I'd like to know Star-Lord. No complaints here. This is episode 59, folks. We are very excited to have a guest with us this episode. We have Robin Jeffers, one of Josh's co-workers. We'll be talking to her in just a minute or two. Until then, though, we do want to remind you, as always, check out our Twitter at High Tech Podcast. Please do follow us there, like us, interact with us, send us memes, send us gifts. Everything I post on there is pretty much Ted Lasso or us, so please enjoy. If you have anything else to send us, like potentially an image,
animal, yes,
you can send that to inbox at hightechpod.us.
.us. And if you're wondering what image to send to us this week, I need to step this up. I didn't plan ahead. This is bad. Oh,
when
nope.
Do you?
I don't. Well, sometimes. Okay, I got it. Okay. Here it is. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
A cheetah on a motorcycle. Okay.
I was hoping. All right, and I'm gonna say this now. You might like it better. I don't know. I was hoping you were gonna say a cheetah eating Cheetos.
Oh, you know what? That is so much better. Screw my suggestion. That was failed. I want a picture of a cheetah eating Cheetos.
Boom, baby.
Boom.
So send that over to us at inbox at hightechpod.us. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I almost did it.
And then please do find us on our website, hightechpod.us. You've gotten it backwards today.
I know, I did.
I've been saying .us, and you've been like,
I know,
actually,
you're
the first time I said
me.
.us, and the perfect thing though is the more Josh and I fight about this, the more you end up at our website. So it's fine.
Yeah.
You actually
exactly.
Okay, we actually did a pretty good intro today with Robin, so we're going to turn it right over to you now because she's going to tell us everything about herself, about her background in a quick, easy conversation, and then we're going to learn about instructional design. So let's kick it off.
What is up, high-tech people? We are joined by myself and Will. That shouldn't be a surprise. We're normally here.
I actually showed up.
Yeah, you did. But we're excited. We have another guest. You're like, wow, do you know more people, Will and Josh? We're like, yeah.
It's not the same person again. It's not
the same person again. This is a new person. Super excited to be joined this week by Robin Jeffers, who is a coworker of mine that we have worked together now. I don't know.
2 years?
It's been 2 years? Yeah, okay. So there you go. You are more intentional and count that than I do.
It was 2020, so.
Yeah. So anyway, super excited to have Robin join us, an instructional designer as a part of our team. Say hey, Robin.
Hey, how's everyone?
No, the instruction was, hey, Robin. You should have said, hey, Robin.
Oh.
And also,
hey, Robin.
This podcast, they can't talk back to you.
Well, they should tweet.
Yeah, that's right.
They should. It's a conversation in spirit.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're in your car listening right now, you can go, hi, Robin, and we'll pretend like we heard you.
Now, as I'm learning, if you're in your car while you're listening, you're likely also in what Robin considers her office. Yeah, I hear you travel around a lot.
Sometimes I do. I have been known to take Zoom meetings from my car and from other states as well.
Oh,
yes.
See, remote life. That's the way to do it. Are you a virtual background person or just like you can see whatever it is?
You can see what it is. We have in our camper that my family travels in, we have a wall that is a nice background. It's plain, it's professional looking, so it works.
Until someone throws something against it, and
correct.
Then it just looks like art, right?
Right. One of my children. They can just get creative. Whatever.
A colleague of mine actually recently before training was getting up, preparing to lead a 3-hour workshop, and sees her husband, talks to the kid, does this, that, turns around, and the wall in the kitchen is painted in chocolate.
Oh,
not just like a little bit, like splatter paint all across the wall. Yeah,
that's not good. Mine are old enough that they should know better, and that we would be absolutely livid if that happened. So
we shouldn't tell you that they're painting in chocolate right behind you right now.
No, we shouldn't. They could actually be doing that upstairs, and I'd have no idea. So
it's probably better that way.
It probably is.
Just to not know.
Yeah.
So you two have been working together 2 years. You know each other pretty well, but I'm out of the loop. You're an instructional designer now. Did you come from that, Robin? Where'd you come from?
I did not. I spent about 14 years in K-12, mostly in the younger grades, mostly in kindergarten, actually. But I've done a little bit of everything K-6, really.
Cool.
From classroom teacher, substitute, aide, pretty much everything. So, and then I found the institution that I'm with now, and I was an adjunct professor first, and then one of our other colleagues told me that he was transitioning out of our office and that his vacancy could be filled by me. And I was like, I don't know anything about computers. That's probably not the job for me. And he's like, you don't need computers. It's okay. You have people to do that for you. He's like, education, teaching. And I was like,
in case you were curious, everybody, his name is Justin Harbin, and he has been on this podcast before.
And none of us are surprised by that quote.
No, none of us at all.
Well, and I know that things have changed there over time, which is actually really cool. Like with Josh's team now, that's more true than it used to be, right? Josh's team running the instructional technology does, I imagine, make it easier for the designers to focus on design and focus on curriculum. When it was me and that team, and it was 2 or 3 of us behind those desks and those computers, we all did everything. And they turned to me. I was only doing the technology, and they would turn to me to like fix as much as possible. But that was more like the kid putting the fingers in the dike, that's what I was doing. Josh has built up a whole new dam to hold the thing in place.
Let's not get too cocky. The dam might be falling apart.
No, it's not. It's true. If I did not have the technologist that I work with on my specific team, I would be lost in the water. Like it would be bad. So
he's a good guy.
We all need that. We need that pairing. Like that's one of those things, like, because curriculum is so important, and curriculum design takes, as Josh and I have said many times and in many ways and in many reasons, takes so much. It's not, a lot of people think like, oh, you just make a course, right? Yes. When you say I'm making the philosophy of tanks course, that's one course, but it has 100 facets,
Yes. And
so
I ask questions all the time about computers. I'm always like, help, please.
Hey, she's figured out some stuff.
I have. I was proud of myself with Notion the other day. I taught myself how to do something.
Of course, Notion.
Of course I did.
Everybody needs to learn how to use Notion.
Yes.
So, Robin, the reason I'm excited to have you on here is, besides the fact that it's fun to talk to you and we have a good time at work, is that so Will and I have talked about design and things like that, but we have not necessarily had an episode yet on the podcast where we talk about explicitly what instructional design is. So those who have been sticking with us for a while have no idea what an idea is. They're like, well, they keep referencing it. It must be like somebody who does something somewhere.
That's a really great description.
I know, right? Somewhere. It's super deep.
That's
I know
what
the
most
job description
faculty. That's what most faculty think, right? Like,
yes.
It's just a wizard in the corner.
Well, you're IT, right? That's how it works. So like, what, for those listening, how would you describe what an instructional designer is? Like what you do on a daily basis? How would you describe that?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because people will ask, what do you do? Like new people you meet. Sure. What do you do? Good question. Or if they find out that I say something about students, they're like, oh, you're a teacher. And I'm like, easy answer. Yeah, sure. And then they're like, huh? And then I have to go into, well, I'm actually an instructional designer. And then they get really confused. So short answer is I help write the courses that go on our online programs. So more complicated than that, though. I bring the pedagogy side of learning and brain science and how people learn best. And the subject matter expert, which you have mentioned on the show before, brings the content knowledge in their discipline. So we work together and we write the course.
That's it. I mean, I was just like looking back there to check. Yes, those are all the things I studied.
Succinct definition and answer.
I love
exactly.
It.
Yeah.
And then they get all impressed. They're like, "Oh, wow, that sounds really cool." I'm like, "Yes, it is very cool."
You should be jealous.
Well, and I think it's important to make a distinction too between corporate instructional design and educational instructional design too, because I've heard, I don't know a whole lot about corporate side. Will, that's what you do now, right?
I do that now. Okay. And would you like to come join us? There's
always you. None of this. We outlawed this.
Days. I have thought about it. I'm not going to lie, but I really do like teaching and the other part that I get to do, which is adjuncting and actually being in the classroom. So
yeah, no, it's good to stay there if you actually like teaching. Having transitioned so far, I don't see a whole lot of teaching and learning in my work, but we'll come back to that at another episode. No, you're right. The higher education area definitely focuses on the academics and I love that you said the brain science of teaching and learning, right? There's so much emphasis, not just on the fact that we have to get people to check a box or get a 10 out of 10, but the instructional designer is, in my opinion, big word here, is the vanguard of education, right? Ooh. Like even faculty sometimes just get tired, get bored, don't have training in teaching and learning. And so they just let courses become what I took too many courses in undergrad where the faculty member or adjunct got rid of the final or just passed people on stuff because I specifically remember my intro to theology or biblical hermeneutics, intro to theology, I think. He had us recite, the Apostles' Creed in chorus in the room all together. And then just was like, okay, did you all say that? Yes. You all passed. And we moved on. That was 50% of our grade for the midterm or something like that. I'm like, this is not teaching and learning.
Oh, wow.
But the idea is there to hopefully stop that.
Hopefully, yes.
Robin's like, oh, I just set up an assignment like that last week.
Did not. I did no such thing. No.
But you get to speak into the moment. You know, if a teacher's designing a curriculum and has that idea, you could be like, maybe there's another way we could consider having the students demonstrate their knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I like that we get to use, the tools that we have, and I like working with the people who actually know their content. And I am actually fortunate to work with one of the departments that I actually have learned things in and have expertise in as well. Education is one of my departments.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That is honestly, it makes it easier, when you're trying to just be the technical or pedagogical expert, but you also happen to know. I worked at my last institution where I supported engineering. I know nothing about engineering.
Wait, that is clearly not the case.
Well, that's why I always come back to tanks, right?
Yeah,
I'm a tank engineer.
We know so much about tanks.
So much. I have learned so much about tanks through this podcast.
Well, that's good.
Nope.
It's weird. That was a side mission to the High Tech Podcast.
I'm sure.
Harness technology and learn tanks.
Yes.
Josh and I in the early days, like, why are we doing this? Yes. Tanks.
Tanks.
Clearly.
But art, liberal arts, just, general philosophy, Spanish language, and the ones that were chemistry, calculus, the ones that were the most fun for me was like Spanish. I know a lot of Spanish technically. I can't speak it well, but like I can read it and write it, and I enjoy studying that. Like those are the ones, right, that really give you some extra energy as you're working through what can sometimes be like dead information. I know a colleague as an instructional designer in corporate who I have to obscure this a little bit, who gets product knowledge, right? He's told product knowledge, and then he has to turn that into something like he's handed a product manual. Like, have you ever opened the manual for your coffee grinder, right? Like, or your coffee pot?
Every day.
He would be handed that and be told, like, make this into a course for our partners so they know what this coffee maker does. Like, how rough is that?
That would be rough.
To me, like, engineering, here, make engineering interesting. But I digress. Now, here's a fun one, Robin. Having not been an ID, getting into it, learning about it, and practicing it, what would you say was your number one misconception? But did you know about it at all before you became an ID? Like, what would you say was that thing? Like, oh my gosh, I don't know about an ID. That's those weird people in the corner.
You know what? I really didn't know a whole lot about it. I knew that Justin was one, and that's about it. Because I thought he worked with computers a lot, and and he does, and you have to use a computer a lot for what we do. But no, I really didn't know a whole lot about it at first. And then I started, like, when I, finally had interviews and things, I started researching it. I was like, oh, so like all those trainings that I have to take, for certifications, and and I'm a soccer coach, so we had to go through safe sport trainings for the kids and concussion trainings, and like somebody had to create all of that, and that would have been an instructional designer, and I had no idea they existed, but I'm so glad they do, because I like being one.
Amen.
Yes.
There's something to it once you've seen our side of it, right? There's something to it when you like take that sexual harassment, discrimination training, and you're like, ugh, how boring. You look at it like, I know how you could have done this better. Like, I took a training once. I'm not going to identify what it is, but I was going through it and I was like, wow, look at all these interactions. And when I click on this image, I get such a cool diagram, and this video has a transcript. Like, I don't know. I feel stupid being so nerdy about it, but it's like when it works, when somebody does it well,
Oh yeah. I was driving Sam crazy for a while because I had to take a boat training. I think I remember telling you about this, that I did this boat training in like a weekend, right? So we were doing jet skis and I needed a boating license, and everybody had done it ahead of time, but I procrastinated and waited till absolutely the last second to take this thing. And so I'm doing it, and I'm like nerding out about while it was kind of corny, they did have some cool like interactive videos with like a boat, basically. Like, it would kind of pause and you could choose which direction like you would go based on kind of like making decisions with the boat. And I was like, Sam's sitting over next to me and I'm like, this is cool, like you can do this, and she's just like, and I was like, come on. I was like, this is pretty sweet. He like programmed, I was like, give this guy some credit, okay? Whoever built this had to make that boat move and go sideways and make decisions, right? Like, this is, she was like, stop nerding out over the training and just get it done. And I was like, okay, fine, you jerk. That's fine. I'm gonna move on.
Sam, his wife, folks, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, that's how you talk to your wife.
Well, I did the same thing too, because my husband and I both had to take that safe sport training for coaching our kids, and I was like, look at the cards, how they flip over when you click it, and look at the hot spots. And he's like, okay.
What? The what's?
What's a hot spot?
It's like, look, you hover and a new thing comes up. Somebody did that.
Until educational technology, I thought a hotspot was just the thing that gave you internet when you're in your car in Robin's office, and then you get the educational technology is like, oh no, hotspot activities are, and they're really awesome, and you want to do them, and you want more of them.
I mean, I also like the other hotspot too. It gives me internet to interact with those hotspots, but both are equal in their creation. Yeah. So now, like, thinking through that, Robin, with what you do now with faculty, right? Like, how, if you're talking to a faculty member, and I'm sure this never happens, usually faculty members just immediately know why you're necessary, and
they are ready for you immediately to help them.
They're like, the second they're described that somebody else is going to be helping them make the course, they're really excited about it always. And so But
folks, we're not cynical, just sometimes cynical.
It's been a day. How do you describe to faculty, like, so obviously, right, you talk about like the pedagogy, you bring it in, but if you and I have seen this before, the pushback is usually like, well, I'm a faculty member, I know the pedagogy, or I don't need that explained. How do you explain, like, or even give some examples of like some of the ways you actually help faculty as an instructional designer, right? I know you have plenty of stories of the good and the bad of what's happened.
I do. Wow, where do I start? So, well, let's start with the bad news, because then we can get done with that and move on to the good news.
I like it.
So it has happened at times where I do have to tell a faculty member that, hey, you don't have enough hours for this week, or you have too many hours for this week. And they say, well, they have to do it all. They're going to be, I work mostly in the grad space, and, they say, well, they're grad students now. They have to, chin up, do the work and get it done. I said, well, but it's legal. You can't have over the amount of hours for a week. So sometimes they push back on that, and then we have to figure out, what can be taken out or cleverly manipulated, shall I say, over the course of the weeks. Maybe moved someplace else, or into another activity, or maybe sometimes just not submitted. I have a few that I'm overseeing, not actually working on directly, but overseeing, that have so many things, and we need to work on paring that down a bit. So that's a few of the more difficult conversations. I don't know that I would say that it ruins anything. Like, eventually we get back on track and we're both, in it for the long haul. But I think one of my best interactions, though, so like, let's leave negativity behind, is when one of my SMEs, my subject matter experts, told me, I am so glad I did a course with you because it made me a better live teacher. And I was like, oh, that is so heartwarming. Oh. Because it's true. Like, the professors that we work with, and maybe even the clients in the corporate world that you work with, they don't have the teaching skills. Like, they have taught, and they are probably good teachers, but they might not have ever thought about an essential question and how important that might be. And
so, it's only essential, folks.
Or maybe they haven't called it that. Let's say that. Yeah. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. But once they know, like, hey, that's a thing, and I should probably be asking the students that at the beginning, and then talking about it, and then probably asking them at the end as well, then they're like, oh yeah, this is really great stuff. And yes, it is really great stuff, because it's been studied and analyzed a lot. And so that's probably one of the best experiences.
I had a colleague from my time at your institution, but who started doing one of your 6 to 9 p.m. adult only courses at a time frame. And I remember when he was doing his own design for the course, he's thinking through how to like be challenging. It was a 400 level, and he's like, I think I'm gonna make every class period. And he was even taking his 3-hour sections and trying to think of like an hour class period per. He's like, I'm gonna make each one one question. And I was like, that's great. He understood what he was doing. He knew the background, but I was thinking through like the difficulty of what he was trying to say. Like, he was boiling everything down to one question. And then he did it Socratic style. He would get into the classroom. He had plenty of stuff online, but he'd get in the classroom and he'd walk up to the beginning of class, put up his first slide, and it was his question. Here's the question. And that's how he taught for the rest of the night. I'm like, whew, it takes a lot to lead and be prepared for what that, like, he wasn't, we all know. I remember a faculty member at your institution when I was an undergrad who had a binder of notes with him, right? And he always had stuff, and he was going to go through it page by page, and he could do it extemporaneously, but he wasn't doing what my friend was doing. You know what I mean? My friend didn't walk in there with a binder. He walked in with the question, and he researched and prepared and thought about the question, but he was going to guide the students in answering it. And man, I mean, it's just like the things you'd come back talking about. Some weeks really successful. Some weeks somebody would take a tangent. You can't stop people from being like that. But that's a really good example of the in classroom experience being challenging, being dialectic, or not being dialectic, but being dialogic, like communicative.
Mm-hmm.
Where if he was doing that in the face to face, we'd want to maybe try and bring that to the virtual. You're saying, Robin, you've taken some of those virtual practices, and these people are seeing that affect their in classroom experience.
Yeah,
and it's working.
Yeah, it is. So like the way we planned, the way they walk through their course with us, first of all, it's a little eye-opening for instructors or subject matter experts when they're like, yeah, I'll design a course, no big deal. And then they get like part of the way through it with us and they're like, this is a lot of work. And we say, no kidding.
Yep.
Yes, it is a lot of work. And they're like, I really wish I would have known how much work this was before I said yes. And I say, well, it gets better the second time around, because it's true. Like once you work through, like we have steps that you follow and they're very, scripted. Like first you do this page, then you do this page, then you do this page. And it really walks you through quite nicely. If I don't say so myself, because our team has created them.
That's great.
But
it's nice when it works, and it exists.
It is. And they walk through systematically and they're like, wow, I just never thought about some of these things. And I never thought that this goes into that and into a course. And so I think that's really rewarding too, just to have, their eyes opened a little bit to, to create a course and do it well. Okay, so that's another caveat. Like you can create a course and it might not be done well. And if you didn't put a whole lot of work into it, it's probably not going to be done well. But if you do take the effort and put in the time and put in the work, I always say, it's like, you're really going to love it when it just shows up on our LMS and you don't have to do anything then. Like when the semester starts and you're getting ready and you're planning everything and you've got 1,000 things going on in your head, this won't be one of them, because it'll just show up in your dashboard and it'll be ready to go. And they're like, really? Yes, really, because we even build it for you. But yeah, so I think that's one of the big payoffs too. Like they've done all the work and then they get to use it, and I think that's a really big win for them.
The irony to me of online courses and the work that an ID does is there is so much pre-work done, but then
so much
it should leave you to do the teaching work while your course is running. You should not be finding YouTube videos at the last second. You should not be worrying about transcripts. You shouldn't be giving your students instructions on how to creating instructions for how your students should interact in a platform, right? Those are the things we do ahead of time, build them all out, and they just get delivered. And so the faculty member is left the space to respond to discussion boards, give good feedback, host a Zoom class or not. Like that's the stuff that's teaching. And the stuff that they think is teaching that they're so used to doing with the online course when an ID is not involved is just clerical administrative crap work. Like, not to speak down on what then the ID team's doing, sorry, but you know what I mean? Like that's not
I never thought about it that way.
Well, see, I have a background of being called a trained monkey for the work that I used to do. So I got some self-esteem issues to work with, apparently.
Oh,
no. None of this. That's not what I was trying to get from you all. I'm fine with being a trained monkey, but
I think you're a skillful monkey.
Why, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I'll beat you in Fortnite later. It's fine.
Yeah, I take it back.
Oh my. Yeah, so I just really appreciate the relationship between the two parties and how that can enhance the course.
Well, I was picking up on some of the language you were sharing with us, and I suspect that you use that or similar terms when you're working with your faculty. Like if you are selling them, I don't say that as a negative, right? If you're selling them on the fact of like, hey, it's hard. You may not like it right now, but the next time's better.
Yeah.
It's so true. And that's some of the value, or even that's the wrong word. That's some of the skill in instructional design that's not scientific. That's the art and the interpersonal stuff of being a designer, like managing the relationship is almost as hard as the content organization and delivery.
Some days. Yes. But that's the part I actually really thrive on. I love being part of a team of people. So both within our office and then like outside our office with the departments that I work in.
Yeah. Oh, don't you go trying to pull me back in, folks. I'm looking at you both. Nope. Don't sell me this altruism.
You know you want to come back.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like you, and I will say, Robin, this is one of like the things I think I appreciate about as a coworker of yours, like you have had to deal with the gambit of relationships of SMEs. And I think that is a huge part of it, is that as an instructional designer, you're both helping guide them in what they're doing, but you're also, you're encouraging them along the way. You're helping kind of teach them along the way in how things should be, need to come together. But it's a lot of relationship components too, of like having to keep that, because it is tough. Any kind of creative project you're doing like this to do, there's a reason all of us in school hated group projects, because it's like it's difficult working with other people to come up with things, especially in this type of dynamic when you're trying to come up with content and a course that both has the right stuff in it as well as like is organized clearly and pedagogically is sound. Like those aren't easy to put together. I think we often see from above us in places where it's kind of, there's almost a perception of like, well, these courses come together and then you put them out and students like it's complex getting it to work.
Yeah. Well, it's funny actually. So our newest ID that was hired, I mean, he's not new anymore, but he had been an instructor of one of the courses that when I was training to be an ID, I shadowed, who is now our ID manager. So he and I worked together on one of the courses so I could see what this was all about because I had never done this before. And so months ago, I was talking to this person who's newer, and he was like, oh, so that means that my department chair didn't actually design the course? Like, he had his videos in there, and as he's teaching the course, he's like, wow, this guy's really good at designing courses. He really knows what he's doing. And he's like, only now did I realize that he didn't actually design the course that I'm teaching and that you guys did. I was like, yeah, that was all us. Like, literally all us.
I know.
It was just a great moment.
Oh, I know what course you're talking about. I know, this is hilarious.
Yes.
I don't. Yeah.
And I bet you know the department chair as well.
You know, there's just so much to that kind of stuff. Like we can't. I can think of a number of skeletons in the closet of my history of design and technology work, where it's like, yeah, that course never saw a subject matter expert.
Yeah.
You know, like, yes, students are taking that course and learning that content. I can name people, but in some ways, that's one thing that I think is a strength of instructional designers, being willing to stand up and stand in the gap and make it work. Like,
yes,
I know of, again, being vague to help obscure this a little bit, I know of a science course that was made by someone with 0 credentials in science, but the instructional designer was very good at their job. Mm-hmm. And they made every effort to incorporate open educational resources that they vetted according to publishers and who was involved with, and like pulled together content and then followed those open educational resources as the guidance for what the course would become. I'm not going to stand by it and say like, it's the best science course it's ever been made. I don't know. Right. And it could no longer exist. You could still be using it. I don't know that either. But like that instructional designer standing in the gap is the important part. That's why I say vanguard. That's why I said it earlier. Like, yes, faculty get courses out there done, but it's because of many instructional designers that online programs even work at all.
Yes. Yeah. It was just so funny when he was like, I thought he designed that course the whole time. And I was like, actually, it's kind of funny because he actually admitted that we should get his stipend.
Oh, oh, oh.
Ooh, and that got dark.
We'll probably edit that out.
That's for no, we probably won't.
We keep that kind of stuff. That's perfect.
That's perfect stuff right there. Now, like making a switch here to get you out of that hole, there, Robin. So like what I like to do when we're talking about, especially instructional design in this area, is like obviously you can't boil every course down to like a couple things that you could do, but I think what's helpful, especially for people thinking about this, because we've talked about this before, there's plenty of institutions and faculty or in situations where they don't have full online like digital learning teams like we have. Like our team is 12 to 14 to however many people we have now. I don't really know anymore.
Holy
if we don't if we don't include all the instructional designers who are contracting with us, I'll count them. So we're at like 30 something. So like we have
a lot of my day working with them.
We have a lot of people that run it, but there's a lot of places where we know, we've talked to a bunch of people who they don't have any of that. I mean, we were talking to Casey from our past episode or past season about, or series, about accelerated learning. It's clear like her faculty teaching the courses she's taking do not have an instructional design team, or a very bad one. And so,
or it's one person.
It's like one person. People at the most. Yeah. So like, if somebody's asking you kind of how could you boil down, like when you're going in an online course, what are like top 2 things that you're like, if I can at least make this happen in the course, like this will at least be a decent course. Like obviously we're never going to have the perfect course. But yeah, does it make sense? Kind of like what are those 2 things you're looking for?
Yeah, I think so. So what I would say, so is it given that I have content? Like, is that let's or does it have to be one of my 2? Because that changes things.
There's a textbook,
That's a textbook. Okay.
Let's pretend you at least have a subject matter expert that has provided minimum content. Okay. Let's not get crazy.
I would say in that case then, providing that I have content, I would say maybe consistency and a logical flow to the course. Like we are converting courses right now because we're moving from 6 weeks to 8-week courses. So one of the tasks of the instructional designers currently is to convert these courses and make the information understandable and manageable for the students in the new amount of weeks. And we're encountering courses where it's just, here's one thing in week 1, and then we're going to maybe come back to that in week 5, and then we're going to do something new in week 3. And some of them don't really make a whole lot of logical sense. So it's, sifting through that too, because, as a learner, you want things to make sense for you to be able to learn. I know. It's so weird. So I think that is a big, big one. So I think I would put logical flow actually before consistency, but then a close second, consistency, because you want to know what to expect. There are some activities that happen every week. So maybe like you're keeping a weekly reflection journal or something. So you don't want to do that for 3 weeks and then, let it die off and not do it ever again, except for, week 6, it's going to come back. Surprise. Your reflection journal. So
what you're telling me is that, if I was designing a course, week 1 shouldn't be like 6 items deep with 2 reflections and a discussion and a quiz. And then week 2 be like 1 quiz. Like that's not what we should do.
Correct. That's not what you should do. Maybe
and then week 3 could be like
there.
a 5-page paper with 3 quizzes. That could be week 3.
That could, but it
logical
wouldn't be
and
great,
consistent.
No. Nor would a course with like 10 discussions in 1 week, and then 0 in the next week. That wouldn't.
Some folks. And I've been a part of this conversation even in the past at your institution, but even beyond that, in instructional design in general, like some folks get to the instructional design blueprint level of work and that consistency logic flow you're talking about, and they like make what's the considered excellent sequence of learning. Like we should always have a read, write, think, or whatever. There's all sorts of different formula where people think that if you do these 3 things when you're learning, you're going to accomplish it. And so they get these programmatic templates out. And if you fill the template in, you just need to plug in chapter 2 and then chapter 3 and then make some quiz questions. But ta-da, you've designed a course. There's a lot of value to that in creating programs and getting it out, getting content. Like you all have hired 25 contractors to meet the numbers you're dealing with, which are ridiculous, right?
Crazy.
But my heart's desire in that kind of response and design, like consistency, logical flow, yes, use that template to get us started. And then when it's right, just like cooking, sometimes you just need a little extra pepper. It's okay to break that consistency sometimes, but just like a speech or a song, right? For dramatic effect, for purpose, because most of what we see when it's not done by Robin is just chaos, is just the drunk drawer, right? It's all pepper. There's no other flavors. It's, but like, if we can follow those programmatic structures of like, let's make sure that's pretty consistent, give a cadence. Justin used to talk about this with me all the time about a cadence of learning. Boom, boom, boom. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while, it's like, maybe I'm a spice this week up with an extra item. Woohoo.
Yeah. And I'm not talking, I'm not talking consistency like you have to, read every single week to take in information. Like you can take in information with podcasts. Oh, hey, how about it? You could take in information with other website articles or, videos and things like that. So like just mixing it up that way too helps if you're not reading and writing and then reading and then writing. And then reading and writing some more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
Also, I don't like when there's a surprise 10-page paper in the last week of class.
But why not?
Oftentimes, that's like the only thing then in the last week of class. Just like, take all of this stuff that you've just crammed into your head and just write a 10-page paper about it. I mean, what's so hard about that, right? We don't need to, think and plan and draft and revise. None of that.
No, you just spit it out on paper and it makes sense.
Right.
That's
Huzzah.
And I think it's done. I think I've been thinking about this, like, and I like those 2 choices, Robin. Those I think are solid, and they also tie back to like it's crazy. It seems like this should be fairly easy to pick up, because like Justin said basically the exact same thing when we were talking about like his pick for design. And if you look at the back to our accelerated series that we did, like a lot of the complaints from the student side were like lack of consistency or like just not clear instructions or one instruction saying this and a different saying that. Or I think, Will, you said you were in a design course once as a student that you had to consolidate from 6 different places what the final assignment was and send those instructions to the instructor.
It was a design
to find out
course.
What the real one was.
In my design master's degree, and it was I think it was 5 or 6 different sets of instructions for the final exam. Yeah, I that got a letter. That got a letter written. That letter was written. I sent it after my final grades, but that was a letter.
That's a good decision.
Anyway, the point of being is just that like for the student, when we're not that way, the inconsistency becomes a distraction or it becomes something that throws them off and gets just in the way. It ends up becoming a roadblock to the learning. And I've been thinking about this recently, just talking to more instructors who are teaching like traditional in class things. This is still an issue for those courses, but I feel like they don't notice it quite as much because they have the consistency of their classroom. Like they can come back and have that consistency with their students to iron out the problems as things are happening. And in an online course, I feel like the reason this is so vital is because that's lost to a certain extent. It's hard. It's so easy for a student to get behind or get lost in the mix in online. That consistency is so important so that they can expect each week knowing what things are going to be like and how to engage with the learning.
Yeah. And I've actually, so you at work talk a lot about user experience and how that looks, especially on the tech side. But I've actually learned a lot about user experience from you. So kudos, Josh.
Oh, huzzah, Josh.
I've learned from other people in our office and books. That's basically, but yeah, that part's so important too. Like we talk about this in our office all the time of like, especially when it comes to online courses. And this is my small pitch to anybody listening. Like, why do I need an office like what Josh and Robin work in? is like, we very much try to combine these of like, what does it look like for pedagogy and how does that user experience play that role? Like your online course, your students need to be able to easily get around. They need to be able to know where things are so that those things don't become roadblocks to the actual learning. So that could be a whole nother episode of itself that we could break down. So.
Well, yeah, before we go into that episode, this has been quite the workout. I am thrilled so far. It really feels almost like we've been at the gym. That we've had a good bit of a fix this evening of our working out of our brains at the gym. So I think we need to, just pivot a little bit to some fun app conversations.
Okay.
Yes.
Like
that about
Gimkit.
Okay, Gimkit. I thought it was Jim, but that's fine.
It's fine.
I was gonna be honest. I was like, I think he thinks it's Jim. That's why he's saying Jim right now.
100%.
But Gimkit is playful, and you can play at the gym, like you can play sports and things. There you go. There you go. There's our connection.
Nice work.
So we always prompt people, and we said, all right, Robin, if you're coming, you got to bring cinnamon buns and
pie.
An app.
Yeah, and an app.
Sadly, I don't see any cinnamon buns, but
she did bring an app, and that's because it's not hard for Robin to find an app. That's the one small tie-in I forgot to mention for anybody who's listened to our podcast. And Robin, I gotta admit, when you pinged me about this the first time it happened, I was like, oh no, I gotta be more careful about what I say on the podcast. Robin is our app-loving ID, very much so. So it's not hard for her to find an app, and it is very possible there's been a past high-tech podcast episode that I've referenced me having to shut down Robin. Yeah, several.
Yeah. Laugh every time. Usually I'm in my car listening because I drive, to work and from work, and I can usually get a whole episode in if I time it correctly. But there have been several that I'm like, hey, that's me.
Josh has been good. I don't think he's ever been, poking fun or anything, but this is one thing we try and watch. Like, we know a lot of people in our area, literally our local area. It's like, I don't want to piss anybody off. I hope not.
No, it's all in fun, and I know that. I have that reputation around the office, and it's okay. I'm all right with it. I'm good with it.
So what is our Gimkit? What is
it? So Gimkit came to me from my daughter, actually. She is in middle school.
Cool.
And so I get to, while I'm an instructional designer, I do also get to adjunct in both the arts and sciences department and the education department. So I'm getting to teach future teachers. So I'm, asking my kids all the time, what do your teachers do that you like, and what are they doing in the classroom that's fun and but still learning? And my daughter came to me this one time after Kahoot. We've talked about that too. After that, not a sponsor, right? Is that what you say?
Hashtag not a sponsor.
After that kind of lost its luster, there have been several more. There's also one called Bookit that might be for another day. But my daughter really loves Gimkit, and I was like, all right, teach me, show me what you do. So there are some kits. Okay, so a person would go into the app and they would create what's called a kit, which is basically just a list of questions with answers. And you can play like kits that have nothing to do with learning that are just fun, or teachers can create kits that have to do with their content that they're teaching. And then their students play the game. And as they're playing the game, as they're getting questions right, they're earning money, fake money, not real money. I think they would like it even better if it were real money. But then they can go into the item shop. I said, what should I tell the people who are listening to this podcast? And she goes, tell them that it's awesome, and tell them that the item shop is really cool. I was like, okay, I'll tell them. So amazing. The kids go in and they as they get questions correct, they get money to spend in the game. So there are some games that you can so there are different worlds that you can pick as you're playing the game, and different themes. And I think you can play any of the kits in any of the themes. So I think it works versatilely that way. Is that a word? I just made that up. So some of them you have to get the questions right in order to advance in the game. And you have to buy things in order to advance. But then some of them, like the basic ones, you just see how much money you get at the end. There are some where you can take money from other people playing the game, and there are some where you can give money to the other people playing the game. So it's really kind of interesting that there are so many different options. When I played it, so I played it with my college students, and they actually really liked it too. The thing that I like better about it is the wait time. Like, okay, so I'm one of those people that if I'm given a timed question and I have to get it really fast, I'm probably not going to get it because I want to read it and I want to pay attention to what it's saying. So like speed ones, like Kahoot, I like Kahoot too. I'm not dissing it, but speed ones
makes one of
tend to I know. Because I do have some Kahoots for my courses too, and we do sometimes do those. But I like this better because it's not timed. And like you create your kit of questions, like you say you put 20 questions in with 20 answers, and the students can play them over and over within like you set up a time, like you say like for 10 minutes we're going to play this game, and they get to answer the questions. So say they get a question wrong and then they're shown the right answer, they'll get that question again and get another chance to get it right before the time is up. So I like that it lets them play at their own pace because they're still earning money. Like, so if you play really slowly, you're probably not going to be the top prize winner, but you still can earn money to spend in the item shop. Like it's more of a more people win, like one winner at the very end. Okay. Sure. I'm not like one of those everybody wins, everybody gets a participation trophy kind of person. Sometimes I am. My husband would say that I am, but I'm really not.
He's not on the podcast. It's fine.
Right. Yeah, it's fine. So he might listen to this one because I force him, but yeah. So he's just like, your nerd podcast. Okay, cool. Great. So what was I even saying? So it gives more students an opportunity, I think,
right,
to do well.
And if I'm understanding that element of the money and the shop, like, so does this end up being something you could use week to week and they could continue earning money over time, or is this only in each game that they get this money for their shop? Like, it sounds like there's this avatar or something that's outside of the individual game.
Yeah, she said something. My daughter said something about liking the item shop a lot because there's a certain skin in there that she can buy. So I'm wondering if you have an account, but then you'd have to have all your students have an account. So I don't know how that exactly works.
It looks like it's a free sign up with Google kind of thing. So that might it might just be that easy, but
yeah, it's a freemium though that you pay $4.99 a month if you want to go pro with it.
Ooh, yeah.
So, yeah. Go pro. But I used it twice in my classes. Oh, and here's another thing that I really liked about it. You know, with COVID and everything, we went hybrid and some students were on Zoom and some were in class. And like, I even taught a semester where I had half the class with me and half the class on Zoom. And then we switched for the other day of class. Okay. So
Tuesdays would be one, Thursdays would be the other, or something like that.
Yes. And the other half would be on Zoom. This actually worked. I had students on Zoom that day and it actually worked really well because they still could play the game because it's a web-based game.
Right.
So, you know, I just gave them the code to get in. They're still playing. They're still on the leaderboard, even though they're not in the classroom. So I thought that was a really great thing about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that. I always like these kinds of things, like Kahoot, etc. It's a good practice to get folks engaged in something actively with you.
Yeah.
I mostly don't like the music of Kahoot. I actually recently used it. Okay, I was at trivia, and the trivia people were using Kahoot to deliver the trivia, and I was literally like pulling it up, and all I could think of was the podcast. Like, oh, man, what can I do? I was like, just turn off. Let me turn the volume off, please. But we got second. I got a lot of free prizes, so it's fine.
Nice.
Yeah, it's all the win. Yeah, I think my issue with Kahoot is more of just like I'm a stuck-up technologist who gets annoyed that that's the only tech tool that any educator ever knows. But
I mean, it's the music for Josh's that.
Yeah, for me, I'm just a jerk. That's what it is. Just joking.
I don't like the speed and the wait time that it allows.
You have real reasons. So,
right. Ignore us. Listen to Robin.
Yeah, listen to Robin. She's the same person here. That's really cool, though. I didn't know because you've told me about Gimkit and just some of we've had it on our list for a while because Will probably heard about it somewhere and it was there. Although I added,
I was looking at applying for jobs there once, but
that's what it was. Okay, so but I like that idea of like the cosmetics and the tie-in. It does give a little bit. It does look like you can get an avatar that moves on beyond you. So that's kind of cool. It's tied in some of the other like aspects of game and kind of this idea of kind of experience and
and my kids talk about skins in like, I guess Fortnite has skins and Roblox has skins. They all have skins now. So of course Gimkit had to jump on that bandwagon.
Skins.
So
well, and you know what?
It's like that makes no sense.
If it made Fortnite, millions and millions of dollars, let's hope it helps these kids learn something. Like I'm okay with it. I don't care. Use it.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Cool. Well, this is just one more example of how the High Tech Podcast becomes something we never expected to be. Like Josh and I, start a little hobby, start annoying each other, annoying our wives, get forced into
mainly what it is,
the virtual world, and now we've got friends joining us from all over. So thank you, Robin, for taking the time.
You are welcome. Thank you. It was really fun.
Good luck with getting your husband to listen to this. Sorry, Mr. Jeffers. I don't know your name, but
Mr.
Josh, actually.
Josh. Or we call him Greg in the office to make it easier. Because you have too many Joshes.
That's amazing.
It's true.
Yeah.
But Josh and I will take a moment here, and then we'll wrap up the episode with a little debrief. Wow, folks! As always, right?
Yeah,
he's thrilled. I love
it's good stuff. Yeah, solid stuff. A lot of experience as an instructional designer. She said much nicer things about me than I expected. That was cool.
Awesome.
And it was nice. Man. I know, what the heck?
Somebody likes you.
So well, until not tomorrow. No, I'm just no, it's really cool. I think Robin has a lot of experience working with a lot of different subject matter experts in a lot of different areas. And I can't speak enough to how vital instructional designers really are when it comes to like building out content, building out courses. I mean, she said it best, like working through how you make a course consistent and logical and enhance its learning. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to.
Well, and I think an idea is definitely there for it helps with that aphorism. You can't see the forest for the trees. The idea there being right, like an expert, a subject matter expert, gets so stuck in what they know that they can't see the forest for the trees. They can't see maybe the broader picture because they're so focused on the one specific thing that's so important to them. And the instructional designer has to see the forest. They are there because they see the full scope. They're trying to make sure that the message you want to communicate to the student is going to be clear. And I think from what I'm hearing from Robin, she's figured it out. Having not been a designer before, but having such a great team around her, you and the other folks, I think that she's really got it down. There's nothing she told me where I'm like, oh, is she really thinking that's a design? Like, nope, she's learned it and she's doing it. It's awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's had the advantage for hearing you speak for 58 episodes, so she's been doing the research.
Great, sure.
No, I'm just saying. No, Robin definitely knows what she's talking about, and I think at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is the fact that like a lot of it is an instructional designer. I think gets stuck in this difficult space where they have to work with a subject matter expert, and they want to. But sometimes it feels like they're there to kind of like tell the subject matter expert what to do. I think that's sometimes where subject matter experts struggle with working with IDs. And I think Robin said it well. It's not that like they're there to tell them what to do. It's the fact that most subject matter experts, some have taught a lot online, but there's a lot who don't have expertise on what it looks like to learn online. And whether we want to admit it or not, it is different. Learning online is not the same as learning in a face-to-face class. And especially in Robin's situation, a lot of it for her is having to help them see, okay, you may have learned your field this way, or people may learn your field this way, but when you bring it into an online world, there's other components to what learning looks like. And it's not always just going to be a copy and paste from what your past experience was into this course. Like there's a different way about doing it.
Well, and you raised a point there, Josh, that I think is critical about what we're experiencing now, that not all teachers have like taught well or teach well online or had much experience teaching online. But in 30 and 50 years, I think every teacher will have taught online and will be teaching at least one class online. Like I think I think it's the future. It is what we are going to see more of. And so there's going to be a period of time where IDs will need less of that, like, oh, and here's how to teach online side. Like I actually think that that's almost like the dessert. Like they're serving an entree, and the entree is curriculum design and learning experiences, active engagement, online instructor presence. Like those are really important things that the designer helps with, and they teach them how to teach online. And that's almost incidental. Like, hey, so we're going to do this discussion board this way, and you should probably engage with it in these ways, right? Like they have to slip that second part in there to teach the teacher how to teach online. I'm hopeful, moderately, this sometimes skeptic over here, that we'll have to do that less over time, but the instructional designer will still be needed to help with the scope and sequence, to lay the content out, to make the user experience effective. Like, some online instructors will get good at that from themselves and incidentally, and may have their own experiences, but still, even an online instructor in 50 years is not going to be the expert in all the tech stuff.
Absolutely.
They don't have that background.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it gets down to like the core. If we could bring in all this stuff together, like over the last couple episodes and series we've talked about, we've had different people with instructional design background, like Justin has. Other people that we brought on have had that experience or have taken courses. And I want to hammer home something that she brought to attention. Robin could have picked any two things when we asked her that question, and she picked consistency and logical flow. And I want to point out that, like, I think we mentioned that when Robin mentioned it, but just hammer it home again. Justin said that when we asked him about, like, if he could pick his handful of things to deal with courses. Casey, during the accelerated series, her biggest complaint was that there wasn't those two things. There wasn't logical flow. There wasn't consistency. How many horror stories have we then also heard over and over again of that situation? I think so much so we get so focused on the content that we forget that the logic and the consistency of your course can be just as detrimental if not done well. Like, and it is a huge deal. And I think that's, the IDs are there to help champion that a bit, to say, like, this is how we can make this more logical, so we can scaffold things out so there's a better flow. This is all of those pieces.
Yeah, I'm thankful other people are saying it for us, but in another sense, like, we'll keep having these people on because I think the more evidence we have, the more likely people will be to listen. Like, it's something that we need more awareness of and more practice of. We need this consistency. That flow is critical. So thank you, Robin. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Casey, for all these people who are joining us, but even Josh and I know this stuff and practice and preach it. So I don't know. I think that we've got the idea of ID behind us, and we're seeing some examples of good ID instructional design. So now we just need to get more examples of all the stuff in between.
Yeah, absolutely. So great episode. Super happy Robin joined us. Hopefully she'll be able to join us again sometime down the road, because we love bringing on those guests and taking their ideas in the High Tech Podcast. But there, it was a great thing and taking a look at it. And I'm sure we'll talk more about instructional design. But till next time, couple reminders. First of all, this was episode 59. Check out episode 60 next time, where we talk about cognitive dissonance. Ooh, whoop. Fancy words. Like, does Will and Josh know what that means?
Not yet.
But we will talk about it next week on the High Tech Podcast, and introduce a really cool tool called Around. That's all I'm going to tell you. It's called Around. You'll figure it out. It'll be great.
Whoa.
Check in next week to figure out what it's about. Again, reminder, check us out on Twitter at High Tech Podcast, where you can hit us up. You can also hit us up at inbox@hightechpod.us, and you can send us that wonderful Cheeto picture eating Cheetos. Remember it, stick it in your head, get it to us. And then you can also check us out at hightechpod.us, our website,
.us.
where we do, there's some people have that opinion and they're wrong, where we do lots of resource pages and web pages. All of our episodes, when we talk about apps, there's always a page that goes through how to use that app. So check it out there. So again, thank you again for joining us another week at the High Tech Podcast, where we continue to learn what it looks like to harness that technology in the classroom, whether online or in person. See ya.